Book Worms Horror Podcast is sponsored by Creepy Crate. Creepy Crate is a horror and true crime subscription box filled with spooky collectibles, macabre accessories, and terrifying goodies. Each bi-monthly box is filled with over $85 of terror and includes at least one horror or true crime book. This box delivers dread to your doorstep for just $39.99 with free shipping. Go to creepycrate.store to subscribe. Use the code BOOKWORM5 at checkout to get $5 off your subscription. That's BOOKWORM5 for $5 off your subscription. And now to the show. Welcome to Book Worms Horror, the podcast that offers you tips on writing, especially in the horror genre. My name is James Ippoliti. I am the host of the Real Demons of Pop Culture podcast, in which I unearth the origins and eerie allure of pop culture's captivating demonic realm. In this episode, I talked to Regina St. Clair about how exercise might help your writing. Regina is a Waddy Award winner for Best Horror Novel, as well as multiple screenwriting awards, including a Webby honoree. Regina is also the contributing editor of the best-selling Local Haunts, a horror tube anthology. Find Regina and her alter ego, Batilda, at her booktube channel, Regina's Haunted Library, and on her blog, rstclair.com. Regina and myself are the editors of the Book Worms Horror Zine, and since we're seeking great horror fiction for bookworms, we created this weekly podcast to offer writers quick tips on writing for the genre. Find all our links in the show notes. Now let's jump into my conversation with Regina as she speaks with me from her haunted library. So this week, I want to talk about exercising as a habit to help. Well, first of all, I'm not going to be the one that's going to be talking about exercising because I'm not very good at this. And I'll explain why. How does that relate to what we talk about when it comes to writing and you want to write a horror story and why should you be exercising? So, Regina, I know you walk a lot.
I do, and I do have a gym membership, and I haven't been using it because I've been doing stuff out. Like I like outdoor activity. It's more like a winter or bad weather. Anyway, I'm making excuses, as you can see. But I do believe in, especially the walk. And I think poor Stephen King, you know what happened to him on his walk. But I think like after the writing session is when I do my I'll walk the dogs, and that'll be release. And then, I also love to hike in Tyler Park and bicycle. In fact, I'm probably going to take a walk today because it's really lovely out. But that is my time to clear my head. I also love to listen to podcasts like this one or audiobooks, music, or just sometimes just nature. But yeah, there's nothing like that. I mean, I think being healthy, keeping and exercising is really important. I mean, obviously it's important to your body, but as a writer, I think
that's what we're trying to find.
Really
what is the connection here?
What is the connection? I think you're exercising different parts of your brain, like your body, your mind. So like when you're writing, you're in a chair. Maybe your posture's not, going in the best direction. You're using a lot of brain energy. And then when you're exercising, you're not maybe thinking that much. You're just listening to music or doing something mentally more passive, but you're working out your body. I just think it's about balance. And the healthier your body, I think the better your brain's going to be, and vice versa. And it's all part of the whole.
Do you find you have more energy to sit down and write when you've exercised versus when you've been lazy?
Like in general? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Do you notice a difference?
Well, the healthier I am, the better my writing is going to be. Just like the better everything's going to be. Like sleep is really important. But yeah, I feel like I wouldn't exercise before writing. That might work for some people. They wake their brain up through exercise. Like you go out for a jog and now I'm like, my brain is really active and my blood is flowing to my
That's
brain
more
kind of thing.
my speed.
Oh, okay.
So if
Well,
I
so
was going to be the exercise guy, so
but you
I do
exercise
walk.
once in a while. Come
Once
on.
in a while. I mean, I'm not an invalid. Like I can.
You're not out of shape.
No, I'm not out of shape. But I walk my dog, right? But I noticed that if I do get up, and I don't usually listen to things when I walk.
Okay.
And I find that walking has the same wonderful side effect that standing in a shower, washing dishes, all those mundane tasks have that same thing where your ideas come to you, that subconscious opens up. And I think that to me is why I find it important when I need to write. I come up with my best ideas walking or in a shower.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've definitely come up with ideas. Like I remember some hikes like in Tyler Park. I've, created complete scenes from a novel while walking. And yeah.
Yeah, I think there's something to that because I don't know, I'm not really sure. I've read things about it, but when your body's just doing things like it's so subtle, like you're walking, but your body still needs to know how to walk. Your brain is working out all these other things that are in your subconscious.
Okay, yeah.
And that's the same when you're washing dishes or you're taking a shower. You have these amazing ideas because you're doing something mundane and your brain's working out this stuff and it rises to the surface, this like idea. It's like everything starts. And that's the thing that to me, I find whether you're just, taking a walk, and this is the least. I mean, if you're on a treadmill, if you're running, you will still have these thoughts.
Right.
But I've been so surprised at how a puzzle piece comes in and connects one idea with this other idea.
Yeah.
And
it must be working a different part of your subconscious or something.
Yeah, I was just listening. I think it's a podcast about podcasting, but the interview brought up this idea where, I know what it was. It was a podcast that was talking about how they use Patreon and things like that. And they had this idea because their podcast was named like something like the garbage truck of something, which I don't think it was meant to be a compliment, but they took it and ran with it. So they had this idea of just getting a garbage truck and putting on like the name of their podcast. And then he had this other idea that was around a while ago about something to do with people donating clothes or something. So he combined both, like all of a sudden everything, there was this little piece that put it together and they ran around with this garbage truck to like get people to donate stuff. And it became this big publicity stunt they did.
Huh.
It was really interesting, but he was just talking about these, Stephen King does this too, where he says he doesn't keep notes of ideas.
Right. Yeah.
He believes that the good ideas stay and the other ones will just kind of fall away. And so in the back of his brain, he has all these ideas and then something else clicks and there's this other puzzle piece that comes in. And I think that's the reason why he walked a lot,
Yeah. I think that, the walking can definitely just, it sifts through stuff and it's great. Sometimes like this, I'll get a lot of ideas when I'm driving.
Yeah,
and
driving
and
too, yes.
And I'll hit like, or like, especially if like sometimes, because I also write songs and a song will hit me and I'll just hit the record on my phone and try to get the song, like piece of the song down because you'll forget if you don't put it down. Like, I don't know, Stephen King remembers everything, but especially with a song, I find like I need to get it down. But the walking, it's great. I think that, like you were talking a little bit in the last podcast about people who do a lot of like, I don't know, like a lot of drinking and writing, like the Hemingway way to go. There's a guy, I don't know if you know, he has a pretty good channel, Derek Murphy. He talks a lot about self-publishing is kind of his bent, but I think said he was working on a book called Writing Under the Influence.
Oh, okay.
and like looking at, different ways of like, does it enhance your writing? Now I can't, I mean, except for caffeine, I would never like drink and write. I don't think that would work well, or any other kind of substance. I've never tried it, but it might work for some people. But I guess my point is, I would rather go in the healthy direction.
Yeah.
Like, I think the healthier your body is, the better, and the more, you get regular sleep, you're going to be a better writer. I mean, I think some writers maybe are like, I got to sit here with my brandy and my cigarettes, and this is how I write. I know Stephen King like went through his brandy and or was it brandy, cigarettes, and cocaine or something?
He went through it all, but he's sober and he's been writing probably a lot
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. So I think healthy, but also the exercise part
Well, I think
is really
I
helps.
have written like while I've been under some influence of something, and I never really found that any of it was that great.
Yeah.
But at the time of writing it, I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah.
But going
Yeah.
back, I was like, this is a little pretentious. But again, everybody's different, and some people might find that. And I think something like Hemingway is like, if you're an alcoholic,
Yeah. It's just sad, really.
you're an alcoholic, but you could be an alcoholic with great work ethic, and that's the difference. It's not the alcohol that made him who he was. He was a writer who had a problem, but he also kept writing. So
Yeah.
I think it's possible to write great work if because you got to remember the drinking part is him just being at zero. Like he has to be drinking just to function.
Right. Right.
If he wasn't drinking, he would probably not be writing.
Well, it might have been like when he started drinking and writing, that alcohol loosened him up. It,
Yeah.
worked on his, it melted the inhibitions, which it does. But then, with alcoholism, it becomes like you need to drink to function,
Yeah.
and then you're just killing yourself.
Yep.
But yeah, so I mean, I think the healthy route is the better way to go.
Well,
but I'm sure there are a lot of
think-
people who do drink and write or whatever.
Yeah, but I think that the problem comes into what we talked about last week is the days are going to be harder if you're not exercising and you're eating unhealthy and you're drinking all the time, whatever.
Yeah.
You're going to have a harder time to get up and then sit and write. You just won't have it. But if you're healthy, you're going to have the energy to do it. It won't feel as daunting as trying to fight all the demons that you currently are fighting outside of the writing life.
Yeah, because it's like we talked about the blahs. That'll give you the blahs
Yep.
if you treat your body like crap, that will give you the blahs before anything else, and then you don't feel good about yourself, and it's a vicious circle of self-loathing and all of that. And we've all been there on a certain level,
Yeah.
And for me, like after I do my writing session and then I walk, that walk feels great because I've done my writing,
Yeah.
It's like I've gotten my exercise done.
I feel like, to me, it's the opposite. Like I said, if I can get up and walk, then that energy's there. I'm ready to sit down and write. I feel great.
Okay.
I feel like I've accomplished something before I even started. So
But come up with some good ideas.
yeah, and that's the other thing. Like it inspires me. I'm like, oh, this is great. I can't wait to get back and start writing this. And so,
And then jumping on that, like when you have that good feeling, and I mean, I know you have kids and, probably a lot of distractions. So it's like, no, I got to jump on this right, put the sign on the door, do not disturb or whatever. But like when you're feeling that good energy flow, try to write then.
yeah.
Instead of, well, I'll do this late at night when everyone's asleep, but then, maybe I'll be too tired.
Yeah. So if you're listening and you want to start something, I would say start with walking. It's the easiest thing. If you have a pet, it's even easier because you have to do it.
Right.
So do that and see how that makes you feel. Maybe go walking, come back and write, see if that feels good, or do what Regina does, write, and then go for a walk and see if that's maybe your style. And then you can build from there. But again, just like we talked about setting reasonable goals for your writing, you have to set reasonable goals for exercise too, because everybody's different, has a different level of physicality. So we want to make sure like when you're coming up with these, you're not going to be like, I'm going to run a 5K. You know, I don't want you having a heart attack, you know?
Yeah. Well, also, I was just thinking, I lived in New York City for 10 years. That was a great place to walk and observe people and find settings. So maybe, you don't want to go into like dangerous places, but like changing where you walk a little bit, like walk in a park. And if you normally do that, like walk in a city and walk at the mall.
Yeah. Every time, the mall. Every time I walk, although the malls are more like ghost towns now.
I know,
so
but
eerie.
That could be a good idea for a horror film.
Yeah, it is a great idea. Yeah, it definitely would inspire you. Take a look at why the mall feels abandoned, even though it's not, and make notes of that.
But see, James, I think you have like a really good mall story in you, mall horror story.
I do.
Because you've worked at malls and you're like from that mall culture, you know?
I am. Yeah, it's kind of sad that the mall culture I'm watching it die before my eyes. But
yeah.
The other thing I was going to say, when I go to New York City, I have no problem doing 10,000 steps in it. More than that.
Oh, yeah.
It's just so, I feel like it's so
I was 10 pounds thinner
so much to see.
just from living there.
Yeah, it's just so much to see, so many places. Everything's walking distance. Even if it's like 15 blocks, 20 blocks, it's still walking distance. So
yeah.
All right. Well, that's all we got for this week. And we'll see you next week.
All right. It's great chatting with you.
All right.
Stay inspired.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Book Worms Horror Podcast. You can get the Book Worms Zine premiere issue on our Etsy link, which is in the show notes. The second issue should be coming out soon, so stay tuned and we will keep you posted on when you can pick that up. All our other links are in the show notes. We'll be back next week with a new episode. Book Worms is a Guerrilladelphia production.